Frontline Europe Special Report. 1,136 Days of War. Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the global tremors that followed. July 31st, 2025. On February 24th, 2022, Europe woke to the thunder of war. For the first time since the Second World War, a nuclear superpower launched a full-scale invasion of a sovereign European state. Russia's attack on Ukraine was not only a direct challenge to Kiev, but an assault on the post-Cold War global order. Over 1,136 days, the war has claimed hundreds of thousands of lives, displaced over 15 million civilians, crippled economies, reshaped alliances, accelerated military spending, revived Cold War-era hostilities, and transformed Ukraine into a symbol of modern resistance. Chronology of War. 2022 to 2025. 2022. Invasion and Resistance. February 24th, 2022. Russian forces launched a multi-pronged assault from Belarus, Russia, and Crimea targeting Kiev, Kharkiv, Mariupol, and the Donbass region. The stated goals: demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine. Initial troop deployment: 190,000 Russian soldiers. First strikes: over 100 missile and air attacks in the first 24 hours. Kiev resistance: Ukrainian armed forces and civilians formed territorial defense units. Zelensky's decision to stay in Kiev became a pivotal moment in morale. March, April 2022. Bucha massacre. Satellite imagery and on-the-ground investigations documented war crimes against civilians by retreating Russian troops. Siege of Mariupol. One of the bloodiest battles. Russia bombed a maternity hospital and the drama theater, killing hundreds sheltering inside. May 2022. Mariupol falls. Azovstal steel plant defenders become global symbols of resistance. Finland and Sweden apply for NATO membership, abandoning neutrality. July 2022. HIMARS artillery systems from the U.S. begin to change the battlefield dynamic. UN-brokered grain deal signed in Istanbul allowed Ukrainian exports via the Black Sea, temporarily easing global food insecurity. 2023. Entrenchment and escalation. Bakhmut becomes a symbol. A city of 70,000 reduced to rubble in over 10 months of brutal trench warfare. Russia claimed victory in May 2023, but at extraordinary human cost, estimated 100,000 plus casualties on both sides. June 2023. Kakhovka Dam destroyed, flooding vast parts of Kherson region. Both sides blamed each other. Ecological and humanitarian disaster followed. Ukrainian counteroffensive launched in the south and east with Western armor, Leopard 2, Challenger 2 Bradleys, but gains remained limited due to dense Russian fortifications and minefields. July, November 2023. Drone warfare expands. Ukraine strikes Moscow and Crimea. Russia retaliates with attacks on Odessa, Lviv, and Kyiv infrastructure. Zelensky visits Washington amid declining bipartisan support for military aid. 2024. The Long War. Political shifts. U.S. and EU aid slows due to domestic pressures, budget debates, and war fatigue. Anti-war protests grow in Berlin, Paris, Budapest. Russia deepens ties with Iran, China, and North Korea for drones, ammunition, and diplomatic cover. Russian domestic front. After Wagner's failed mutiny in June 2023, its leader Yevgeny Prigozhin dies in a suspicious plane crash. Putin further consolidates power with heavy censorship, arrests of dissidents, and renewed conscription drives. Military facts by late 2024. Estimated Russian casualties: 280,000 to 320,000. Estimated Ukrainian casualties: 200,000 to 250,000. Civilians killed. UN confirmed over 30,000. Real number likely far higher. Internally displaced Ukrainians: 6.5 million. Ukrainian refugees abroad: over 8 million, mostly in Poland, Germany, Czechia, and Canada. 2025. Deadlock, devastation, and diplomatic shadows. Territorial control. As of July 2025, Russia controls Crimea, 60% of Donetsk and Luhansk, parts of Zaporizhia and Kherson Oblasts. Ukraine continues Defensive operations in the east. Drone strikes into Russian territory. Mobilization efforts despite economic strain and declining birth rates. Nuclear threat lingers. Russia withdraws from the New START Treaty in 2023. Putin renews tactical nuclear threats after NATO deploys more forces in Poland and Romania. Children of war. Over 19,500 Ukrainian children deported to Russia or occupied territories. Only a few hundred returned. Thousands of schools destroyed. A generation growing up in bunkers, basements, and exile. UN Red Cross, ICC investigations into war crimes are ongoing, with over 150,000 documented cases of torture, rape, civilian targeting, and forced deportation. Geopolitical aftershocks. NATO's expansion. Finland, 2023, and Sweden, 2024, become full members. EU fast-tracks Ukrainian membership talks, though corruption and war conditions complicate progress. Global arms race reemerges. U.S., China, and Russia increase defense budgets to Cold War-era levels. Energy markets realign. Europe shifts away from Russian gas. Price surges lead to global inflation. Africa and the global south suffer. Grain shortages and inflation drive new humanitarian crises in Sudan, Ethiopia, and the Sahel. The human condition. What began as a geopolitical gamble has become a human tragedy of unspeakable proportions. Ukrainian women giving birth in subway stations. Elderly Russians burying their conscripted grandsons. Entire cities, Mariupol, Avdiivka, Rubizn, wiped from the map. Artists, teachers, doctors turned into soldiers. Conclusion. A war that redefines an era. As the war enters its fourth year, the world stands at a crossroads. Victory is undefined. Peace is elusive. And justice, for the dead, the maimed, the exiled, remains a far-off dream. The Russia-Ukraine war is no longer just a war of two nations. It is a test of the 21st century, of diplomacy, of human endurance, of democracy under fire, and of the world's capacity to learn from its own history before repeating it yet again. Pushpin, this report is based on verified data from the UNHCR, ICRC, Ukrainian MOD, Russian independent media, Meduza, Novaya Gazeta Europe, BBC, NYT, ISW, and Human Rights Watch.